Welcome to our short presentation of our paper In the Eye of the Beholder, Which Proofs Are the Best? We are a small research group from the Dresden University and the Saarland University, and we work in a huge project called CPEC, Center for Perspicuous Computing. And we addressed the research question, how to explain a decision made by an automated system. And if a system is logic-based, then we know we can use a formal proof to explain its decisions. And we have a challenge here, as you see, a stereotypical example of a formal proof for A implies B. You see, giving an explanation is not equal to the user's understanding. And so we came up with the research questions: how to represent a formal proof in a more understandable way for the user, which we can divide in these sub-questions. For example, we can give different representations, a tree derivation, skipping steps, linearization of a tree derivation, or we can transform axioms into a natural language sentence, and so on. And another important point is also, which users do we use? Do we use logicians or do we use common people? And here we need different approaches for making things understandable. So the solution we found was that DL finally meets psychology, and we ask real people, and so students with experience in logic. And our examples for the studies were chosen from the medical domain. They were found in the literature on DL explanations. We adapted the examples to make them comparable in difficulty, and most of the resulted ontological axioms belong to the logic called EL. Then 4 different proof representations were created according to a fixed set of inference rule. And we presented these examples to the participants in either a long or a short version and either a textual or formal version combined. Thus, we resulted with a within subject design, and the students worked through these 4 examples and explained them and rated them. And before that, they had a very short training phase with text and formal proof to work their way into the different kinds of proofs. And at the end of the experiments, they also ranked the proofs. So our hypotheses were that it's easier to understand a short, concise explanation than a longer version in the same representation format. Then furthermore, users with less experience in logic can understand the longer text better than the short formal proof. And users with more experience in logic can understand a long formal proof better than a long text. So we conducted an online study with 16 participants, and they had some experience in formal logic, as you see in the bottom right. And we used contrast-coded predictors to compare short and long proofs, then put them in a multiple linear regression to find out how much variance of the proof rating could be explained by the difference between the length condition. And we used Friedman's ANOVA to compare the ranking at the end of the proof representations with each other. Our quantitative results then showed that shorter proofs were rated as easier than the longer ones, independent of the presentation format. And if you're interested in the statistical values of the multiple linear regression, you can refer to them here. But unfortunately, neither hypothesis 2 nor hypothesis 3 turned out to be significant. There were no significant interactions for any of the experience constructs. And on the other hand, we also had the ranking results, which showed here in green that the short text was more preferred over the long text, which means more participants put the short text on the first and the second rank compared to the long text, and also the short formal version was preferred over the long text. And the qualitative results we asked the participants for also showed that formal proofs were preferred over textual proofs. Formal proofs were described as easier to understand, to find certain parts, and the orientation is better within the proof, participants said, and it's easier to follow the proof. And textual proofs were described as more inconvenient and hard to understand. So in conclusion, we said for future work, we could also focus on shortening proofs, or we could also compare other proof representations, for example, pure justifications, linear versus non-linear formats, mixed formal or textual representations. And the main goal should here always be the usability. So thank you very, very much for your attention. And now my colleague Alisa is going to answer all of your questions.